Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is SewRena, and in today's video I'm going to be doing some Easter sewing for my new baby nephew. It's his first Easter, technically his first holiday. He was born on a holiday. So I want to go ahead and make him something really cute, really quick, so I can send it off into the mail and he'll have it in time for the holidays. So if you're interested in seeing what I sew up and how I do it, go ahead and like and subscribe. Now let's get into it. The patterns I'll be using are available online. Little Lizard King for the romper, and then I used a Etsy shop for the embroidery file. Starting out with the bodice, I am doing a contrasting centerpiece for my bodice, which is what I use to embroider. And I'm also using some cotton gingham. It's blue and white. It feels so fresh. Like, it goes really well with this embroidery. I really like the embroidery because it looks like it's hand stitched, which I think the creator was going for that look. And it really makes this modern romper look that much more vintage. For a long while, I put off the idea of purchasing an embroidery machine because I do prefer the way that the hand stitch embroidery looks, especially for vintage projects. So finding that some small shops have recreated this look in a digital way has been so great, because I've been sewing a lot of vintage baby clothes lately. On top of having a new nephew, my sister's best friend just had a baby, and then one of my friends also had a baby. So there's lots of sewing for me to do, and I love the idea of being able to speed up the process by doing the little details that make them that much more special via machine. I've been having so much fun sewing these vintage baby patterns because these are all patterns left over from when my daughter was a baby. So it's so nice to be able to use them again. I remember maybe at the beginning of last year, I was going through all my PDF patterns and just dumping them and reusing the folders that I store my PDF patterns in. So it's amazing that I'm able to use them again, because I genuinely thought that I would never print out one of these again. And so far I've already made 3 baby rompers, 2 bonnets. I am just having a blast doing this. It's so many good memories, and then it's the excitement of seeing new life in these new garments. They just make me so happy, and seeing the recipients happy, it's a fun feeling, and I really enjoy it. So I'm having a lot of fun right now. Plus, it's a great palette cleanser because I do have some larger projects coming up very soon, and I know I won't be able to do anything quick and small for quite some time. So I'm just really excited to do this and share it with you guys, because once I started posting some of the baby or children pieces, I started getting a lot more requests for vintage sewing for kids. So here is one. This piece is sleeveless and partially lined, so you don't really have to worry about the raw edges on the bodice. And then I'll go into details on how I cover up the raw edges on the bottoms, because to me it's really important how you finish the insides of babies and children's pieces, because you want them to be comfortable, especially little babies who cannot communicate their discomfort. That being said, it's super important, not just for look but also ease of wear, that you make sure that you trim all of your curved areas, put those snips in it, or in my case I use pinking shears, so that way all the curved edges are clipped into and everything's rounded off very smoothly with no wrinkles or anything like that could cut into the baby's soft skin. The bodice comes together really quickly, so all I do is sew up the side seams, and then it's a fully lined bodice, and it's time to move on to the romper bottom. Here I'm working on the placket. I absolutely adore gingham. I feel like it makes pattern matching super easy, and it just looks so refreshing and cool. I forgot how quick these are to make. I think I started a day ago, and then I finished this up this morning, and of course because I'm filming, it did increase how long it took to get it done. But yeah, these sew up really quickly. I think that's how I was able to make about 3, I think 4, because I made one for a doll. So I've been able to make about 4 of this style romper, bubble romper set in just a few days. Yeah, they sew up really quickly, and of course the added little details like the embroidery take up a little bit more time. But since I now have the accompaniment of an embroidery machine, it does speed that up, because when I was making these for my daughter, I was doing hand embroidery, which of course is super special and I don't regret at all whatsoever. But seeing as these are gifts for other people and I need to be making sets of 3 of almost everything to gift, I love being able to have the ease of using a machine, because while the Janome is embroidering, I'm sewing on my Kenmore. Now for the bottoms, because these are unlined, which you can always line these if you wanted to, but I'm not going to because I think the more breathable, the better. We're going into spring and summer. So I do flat fell seam to cover the edges. This makes it flat on both sides. There will be a little bit of top stitching. You could go ahead and do French seams for this, but I decided to do this because I didn't want the little tab of the French seam, and I just thought the more smooth, the better. So moving on from there, I'm using some pre-made bias tape because I'm using the leftover gingham to make my older nephew a matching outfit, so that way they have a sibling set. So I didn't want to cut bias into that fabric, so I used some pre-made bias tape to make the casing for the elastic. This is a double fold bias tape, so I was able to cut it in half and get a piece for both sides of the leg casing. So I didn't even get to use that much. That is one of those things that I completely forgot about baby clothes, especially like the newborn sizes, like the infant sizes. You use so little material. I think one of the first pieces that I made since the first baby of the group was born was scrap of an older project from I think almost a year and a half ago. And when I tell you it was scrap, it was just a bunch of odds and ends and weird funky pieces, and I was still able to get a whole romper and a bonnet out of it. And like, it was like I could hardly tell the grain of the fabric. That's how like cut up the scrap was, but I was able to get a whole outfit out of it, and I was so thrilled. You get so much out of your fabric when you're sewing for babies. And also I just realized that ever since I stopped making matching infant clothes for my kids, my scrap bin has been the biggest it's ever been before. So yeah, scrap busting, sew baby clothes if you have babies in your life. Once you've had your casing, then you grab a little safety pin and attach it to the end of your elastic, and then you're going to fish it through. You're going to use a pin to secure it on the end so it doesn't fall all the way through, or you can just sew it at the end like I do and then finish fishing it through. Then you secure it at the other end, and it's time to move on to the snap placket. The snap placket is really simple. Just make sure that you add interfacing, especially if you're going to be using plastic snaps that require snap pliers or the metal snaps. I'm using plastic snaps for this. When I was first making baby gifts, I was using some hand sewn snaps. Since I've increased my baby sewing production, I've gone back to using plastic snaps, which I used to use with my kids, and that's really good because I still have at least 2 unopened packs of plastic snaps that I no longer use because now they're all buttons now that they're older. So I didn't realize that making all these gifts is a great way to bust some of my own supplies. Once the snap placket is done, I go ahead and add the snaps on off camera, and now it's time to gather the bottoms and sew them to the top. And I do this by getting the lining out of the way because I'm going to cover the raw edges with the lining, which is what I am doing now. I have it pressed and pinned on the back side, and now I'm sewing in the ditch to make sure that I cover all the raw edges and give a clean, smooth finish to the inside. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're watching this as soon as I post it, thank you so much for your patience on this later upload. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. If you would like to support me any further, you can leave me a virtual tip over on Ko-fi or become a bobbin over on Patreon. The links to support me will be down below. Of course, the most affordable and free way to support me is to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I do appreciate any and all support that I get. Thank you so much again, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.